Is CJ Stroud still the franchise quarterback? Should he still be the guy for the Houston Texans? Welcome back to the channel, guys. Thank you all so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more daily Texans content. Look, I know this is a touchy subject when it comes to any fan base, especially this one. I am a fan of this fan base as well, but we have to start having this discussion of, is CJ Stroud the guy? Now, if we asked this question in 2024, I think a lot of national media was starting to question Stroud, and a lot of local media, people who actually watch Stroud play, could very easily say, we struggled last season because of bad offensive line and because of bland, bad play calling. Bobby Slowick, the penalties on the offensive line, Shaq Mason letting guys go through the A gap, that kind of a thing. But now in 2025, the Texans start 0-3 in a real uphill battle to even make the playoffs. They have the worst scoring offense in the league, and they have a quarterback who looks like a shell of himself, especially when you even start to compare that to his rookie year in 2023, a couple years before. And the question is it Stroud's fault? Is Stroud just simply not the guy for the Houston Texans? And before we get into that, I want to show you some numbers because I do think some of them matter. We all remember the infamous time where CJ Stroud kind of big brothered Caleb Williams and basically told him, hey man, keep going, don't worry, you got this. Since that happened, Stroud has thrown 15 interceptions compared to just 5 in his rookie season. So his rookie season threw 5 picks. Last season, and now 3 games into this season, he's thrown 15 picks. So the decline in Stroud has just been there from an interception standpoint. Then we have his overall grade. PFF has Stroud rated a 64 overall, which is 31st among 47 quarterbacks, meaning that there's only 32 starting quarterbacks. He's ranked 31st out of a potential 47. His passing grade takes the biggest hit, 58.3. 38th out of 47 quarterbacks, and his rushing grade tries to save him a little bit. He's 7th in rushing, but it's just not enough to shake the fact that the Houston Texans really have to consider if Stroud is that guy. Like I talked about, this offense is extremely low scoring, the most low scoring in the league. Stroud has 2 touchdowns thrown, 3 interceptions. They haven't scored in the red zone, and they've only been in the red zone 4 times, which is insane to think about in 3 games. I am not exaggerating when I say that this offense is historically bad. It is a historically bad offense. When you look at the amount of points the defense has given up, and I forget the exact number, no other team in the history of the league has given up that few points and remained winless. That is how historically bad that this offense is. And the question is why? How much of it is on Stroud? Look, what I will tell you is that Nick Caley, in my mind, is the number one issue for this offense. I believe it starts with Nick Caley. I believe Nick Caley deserves most of the blame. Now, if you want to take that and you want to blame D'Amico or Nick Caserio, go ahead and do that because they're the ones who interviewed Nick Caley and allowed him to have the job. But I do think it starts with Nick Caley. Nick Caley is running essentially the Patriots offense. And unfortunately for everybody except the Patriots, that offense is very hard to run. There's no trust in rookies. They don't believe in just letting rookies have the ball. Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, they barely play. They're really good rookie receivers, both taken in the top 100. They don't see the field. And it's because of the Patriot way, the stupid Patriot offense that has just been, we've been trying to embed in the Houston Texans franchise, and it's just never worked. And we thought we were getting a little bit of Sean McVay with the Rams with Nick Caley. Nope, he's running a Patriot-style offense. How do I know this? Todd Bowles told us, a very good, very excellent defensive coach, head coach, but also defensive coordinator. You know what I mean, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They asked him, so what was that McVay offense like? And he basically said, that wasn't Rams, that was straight Patriots. So Todd Bowles himself is telling us that this is the Patriot way once again. What are some good positives of the Patriot way? You spread the ball out. You look for little dink and dunk passes. You're able to pick apart defenses. But the glaring issue is that Tom Brady is the only quarterback who has ever allowed this to work for a substantial long period of time. Another fact, CJ Stroud went on the podium and he said, yeah, we've been watching a lot of 2002 Patriots offense. That should have been a glaring red flag from the beginning. Why are you watching 2002 Patriots offense before it really even kicked off with Brady? But it's so old. Like, that's such an old offense to be watching when you have all of these changes in the league. That's, come on, it's over 20 years ago. What are we doing? And unfortunately, it all makes sense in Nick Caley's, the way he calls the offense. I want to ask you guys a question. I want you to think about the offensive performance you've seen from Nick Caley and genuinely ask yourself, what is he trying to accomplish? Some games he's trying to run the ball. Against the Jags, they threw 3 passes on the first drive and went 3 and out. That was horrible. He makes terrible play calling decisions on 4th and goal or on 2-point conversions. That's terrible. Like, I can never walk away from a Nick Caley drive wondering what his plan was. It just seems like a guy who was just picking random plays on Madden, coaches suggested plays, when there's no overarching theme of what he's trying to do. On top of that, it's super predictable. There was a statistic that came out in week 2 basically saying that 80% of the time on 1st and 10, the Texans are going to run the football. And it's like, okay, you don't have to be a defensive whiz just to figure that out and to stop that. On top of that, the routes the receivers are not great. There's a lot of stop routes. So basically you run a route and you stop in the middle of the field. And if that's not open, it never gets open because you're literally planting your feet and stopped. Some of the bootlegs don't necessarily work. We throw in a lot of max protections because we're really passive. Nick Caley is afraid of this offense making a mistake. So he max protects. Sometimes they still give up pressure using 8 guys to block. And so Stroud only has 2 receivers he can throw to, and they don't get open. So I say all that to say that there are glaring issues with this Nick Caley Patriots way run offense. And it's not even a good Patriots way offense. It's a high school offense that this offense is running that Stroud is having to captain. And so, no, I don't think a majority of the blame is on CJ Stroud. Now let's talk about the offensive line. The offensive line has by no means been perfect. Lincoln Tomlinson is not good. We saw them rotate in Juice Scruggs to see if Juice Scruggs could play. Ariante Ursary has had 1 decent game, but he's looked like a rookie against Jared Verse and against Josh Hines-Allen. Titus Howard has 3 penalties. Ariante Ursary has 3 penalties. That's 1 penalty a game on average. You don't like to see that. And you're not getting much run push from your centers, either one of them. Jake Andrews is rated slightly better than Jarrett Patterson, but neither one of them has been necessarily dominant from the center position. Honestly, with the offensive line, the biggest surprise is Ed Ingram actually being a bright spot. Like, I talked a lot of trash about Ed Ingram, our right guard from Minnesota, the former second-round pick who seemed to see his snaps dwindle. He's looked like one of your best linemen. Titus has looked pretty decent, too, once you get rid of all the stupid penalties, which is hard to do. Titus looks good. Ed Ingram looks good. Your center spot's okay. Your left guard spot's pretty bad, and you have a rookie at left tackle who's going to have growing pains. The offensive line is not as bad as it was last season, and I will say that with my chest out. The offensive line is not as bad as last season. Is the run blocking amazing? No, but you also don't have Joe Mixon, who helped out a lot last season. And the pass blocking is a lot better. Going from Shaq Mason to Ed Ingram is like night and day, and that's kind of sad because I'm not sitting here saying Ed Ingram's a Pro Bowl right guard, but he looks a lot better. So a lot of the times what we're seeing Stroud in the pocket, holding onto the ball when protection holds up. And a couple of times we've seen him take these really long 13-yard sacks, these coverage sacks, because no receiver can get open. Other times we see him hold on to the ball far too long. He somehow escapes and just has to throw it away because no one can get open. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, at least when Bobby Slowick was the offensive coordinator, when things broke down and there weren't open receivers, there was a little bit of backyard ball that could be played. Stroud could run out, just run around and figure something out, find a guy. We've seen Stroud do that before. Yet in this offense, when everything breaks down, no one gets open. There's no backyard ball. There's no Nico Collins running around, getting open. Simply nothing with this offense. And it's because of Nick Caley. Like, I do think Nick Caley is the main reason to blame. The offensive line is average. They're not amazing, but they're a lot better than they were last year. And Stroud has regressed. So now let's actually get to the point of the video where we talk about CJ Stroud. And here's what I'll say about CJ Stroud. If you don't think CJ Stroud is the guy, I'd agree with you in this sense. The first sense being, He's not the guy to run this type of offense. D'Amico Ryans and Nick Caley need to understand that, and they need to make significant changes on how plays are called and what the system they're running is on this offense. Because the only quarterback who could ever make it work was Brady. We saw Deshaun do a little bit of it, but that was Deshaun, and Stroud is not as good as Deshaun was right now in year 3. He's just not. So I understand your frustration there. I also understand your frustration if you thought C.J. Stroud was a Lamar Jackson, a Josh Allen, a guy who could put on the cape. We've seen C.J. Stroud put on the cape a couple of times, especially in his rookie year, but he hasn't been able to do that either. That's the reality. So if you're frustrated with C.J. Stroud, I get it. C.J. Stroud has not been able to put on the cape. He has not elevated this team to the next level. This offense in particularly has just sucked. And then he's kind of been in there just going along with the sucking. I understand it. He is not ranked that high from a quarterback standpoint. But I also think that you just can't write CJ Stroud off because of how bad this play calling is. And I also understand if you're done making excuses for CJ Stroud. If you're sick of saying, well, the offensive line was bad last year, we changed the offensive line, we changed the play caller, why is it still bad? It's got to be CJ. I can kind of see where you're going. Like, everything changed and it's still bad. What stayed the same? The quarterback. I just really think that this Nick Caley system is not helping Stroud at all. And I think any quarterback in the league would have a hard time performing in this high school, rudimentary Nick Caley offense. One other thing I will say, though, about CJ Stroud is I am not advocating for paying CJ Stroud and giving him an extension. That's not what I'm saying either. I'm saying he might not be the root problem, but I'm not saying you go extend him. You don't have to extend him this offseason, even though that's when he's eligible. I think you need to carefully dissect if this is on CJ Stroud or not. And even if it is Nick Caley and it's not CJ Stroud's fault, there's other concerns that I don't like. I don't like the body language. I don't like the facial expressions sometimes. Call me a crazy fan, but I don't like wearing Mariners hats. I don't like wearing Yankees hats in press conferences. Like, I don't like any of that. Is that are we talking about, what his fashion choices? Sure, we're not really talking about his game anymore, but like, why are we wearing that after your own 3? Why are you wearing a Yankees hat? Does he not want to be in Houston? I don't know. Then it's a different conversation. But just going from the fact that he wants to be in Houston, I'm not saying you extend him, because you need to see him put on the cape at least a couple more times. You need to see him figure some stuff out, because he is not playing like a $60 million quarterback right now, and that's just the facts. So I guess to just summarize the video one more time, do I think CJ Stroud is the guy for this offense? No, not for this offense in particular. Do I still think he can be that franchise quarterback? Yes, but we absolutely have to change how we're operating and what we're doing on offense, because he is not the guy for this offensive scheme, and hopefully they know it by now for when Tennessee comes to town. So that's all I got for this video, guys. Like always, like and subscribe for the video if you enjoyed it. And if you'd like to see more Texans content, I will catch y'all in the next one, man. Peace out.